dead meme.
Alright guys, so we're going to look at some Empyrion Galactic Survival. This is a pretty interesting game. It's very early access. I believe it's still in alpha, but it has a lot of updates that are coming out pretty frequently, and we've been playing it and rediscovering the quality of life things that are going to make the game a little bit smoother for you. So that's what this video is going to be about. I'd like to show you some tips like connecting inventories, placing blocks, things like that, just so that you're not going to have the headache that we did for the first couple of days of getting all of this mustered up. But we'll come back to that, and let's jump in. The first tip I'd like to give is when you land, turn off the power of any ship that you've got. You will really quickly drain the fuel. You're not going to have access to a base like this in the beginning, so just keep that in mind. Fuel is precious at the beginning of the game. It takes forever to make. So something I think I should mention is the workshop in this game is probably the most important feature, or the key feature to this, because I'm going to show you the factory in the next clip. So go access the workshop if you want to go look at some particular various builds. There's a search menu and whatnot. I'm sure you can understand how to operate a web browser. So just keep that in mind. The game does come with a bunch of built-in blueprints and whatnot, but we're going to jump to that clip now. Alright, so if we hit F2, I'm assuming that you have not altered your controls. This was the ship that I am looking to build. I've already got some components in the factory, and as we can see here, the production time. There's a secret to this that I don't think is overly well explained. So I need a few more iron ingots. If I throw an iron ingot in there, great, I've increased the count that's in the factory. But if I throw mechanical components in, which are made of iron, as you can see, the time drops of the total production time. So salvaging wrecks and things, which we'll talk about soon, will be very helpful for building some of your first vehicles. So here we go. Well, I need silicon ingots. These are made from that. And I went a little bit over, but it'll be safe for your next build. And look at how cool that is, right? It's bringing the construction time down. So this is one of the largest bottlenecks of the game, is waiting for things to produce in the factory. But time to move on. Alright, so I'm going to toss the last little bit of mechanical components in that should push us over. Great. Now you'll notice I'm over a little bit in some of these materials. Don't panic. They just get saved for a future build. And what's really great, this thing originally took 29 minutes. It's going to take 13. So I'm just going to hit start production. The countdown will begin here. And basically now it's just a waiting game. You'll keep yourself occupied with other chores and tasks that you have lined up. Alright, one of the greatest joys in the game to interact with is the really loud and annoying water extractors. So this is a problem that you're probably going to encounter. You cannot just pick up like a small amount and I can't put it back. And I drop it in my inventory. Oh no, I've got 240 things that are going to hit the floor now. But I do have a solution for you. Inside of the ship, you can hit this button here. You can connect the inventory. It'll turn your bars a funny yellow color. And that's how you know you're actually connected. And now, any inventory that you collect is going directly into that ship that you've connected to. So the way that this is possible is there's a component called the wireless connector. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but the vast majority of ships will have one. Something else highly useful about a wireless connection: put one in your base, or your farm in this case, and the vessel that you're out harvesting with. In the P menu, you can get into your device storage, or you can go into the back. But from here, I can access the waypoint farm, and I can find the storage where I've put that 500 water. And instead of like making the trip 100 times, which is no fun at all, I can just simply start dropping all the water in these various refrigerators. Or of course I can throw it in the modular station, which is the base that you've probably seen behind me. You can cycle through the containers that are available to you on the side here. So you can label these things in the P menu. That's something we'll cover a bit later. This is where you decide what inventory you're accessing, and this is only possible because of wireless connections. So you don't even need to get out of your ship to unload all of the great things you've been harvesting. In order to build anything in the constructors, you're going to have to, but that's nobody's perfect. All right, you'll get a prompt when your blueprint is complete from your factory here. So you'll just need to click on this owned button, and you'll see here that something is completed, and we'll spawn it in. There we go. So we popped it in. It will likely need you to fuel it up and a few other things, but we'll come back to that. Alright, so something useful about having an early game hover ship. We go inside and we access one of the containers. We can connect ourselves to it through the logistics button here. We'll hit Alt and push 1, and we'll be able to start disassembling. So this is the tool you'd probably have. You'll likely have the survival tool, and we'll select salvage after hitting right click, and we'll slowly disassemble this thing, and we'll get plates. Now, if you remember, getting plates and various components this way allowed us to speed up the construction time of some of the other vessels that you plan to build. Like, remember when I threw mechanical parts in, how the time reduced in the factory? This is something quite useful. So I'm going to use the more advanced tool. So this is pretty sweet. Multi-tool is relatively early. You could probably find him. And I'm just on the edge because this is a really rookie ship. But rather than filling up my inventory, I'm filling up the ship's. And if you bust it up a little bit there is a bit of a physics engine. Things fall apart. There we go. And I can pick up the debris. And of course not consume charges. So you can kind of strategically take these things apart. You'll have plenty of plates for when the time comes. You sometimes get titanium and other not so common minerals like sathium and whatnot. But here, there's even more. Push up 5. And here we are. So you could use your drone and do the same thing. And even though the drone moves out of the logistics network, you're still in good shape. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's move on. And another great part of hover vehicles, as long as they've got enough engines, you'll be able to float right over water. So my base is on the other side of that lake. And there we go. So we'll just float to the other side. This ship's not overly well designed, but it's mega cheap. So as you advance, you'll get constructors like this guy. This is a large version. He'll require access to an inventory in order for him to do his job, in order for him to pull resources, because he won't be able to pull it from your inventory, he'll pull it from the container. So I'm going to show you how to set these up. So I've got controller container A here, right? So that's not as straightforward as we'd like it to be. So I'm going to show you how you can rename these things and group them so that it's easy to figure out where things go and keep yourself organized. So this is the container that I want to be the constructor in. If for some reason you're not using wireless, it's nice and near the door. This is the one I want to use. So I'm going to push P. I'm going to have to go here to add group, and we'll call it con in. So constructor in, right? And so that'll create a new group. Here it is, con in. So we'll need to open it up. And so we'll make sure that this is the one. So this is the container controller that I believe is the one I want. Yes, that's the inventory I want. So this is the constructor in inventory. All right, now we'll select the container controller. Since we've identified the inventory we want, we'll say add to group. And yeah, we're looking for con in. Here we go. Perfect. So now we'll look for it in here, con in. So we can kind of name it. So I'm going to just do this so that whoever comes along, one of my only teammate at the moment, will know exactly what it is. So let's go check on it in the constructor. con in. So now we all know it's constructor in. And if we look at it in the modular station, con in is right there. We now know anyone who comes by to deliver resources knows that this is constructor in, right? Perfect. So useful tip, I've noticed, especially when dealing with wildlife, they seem to be more dangerous than the guys with guns, because the guys with guns don't put a bunch of weird status ailments on you. And you're probably wondering, how do I cure an infected bite? How do I cure radiation burn? Well, I'm going to show you the tool you're going to need. We're going to go to this food processor. There's some buttons here on the top that not overly obvious, but if you click here, you can see these are the recipes to create the components to cure like poisonous bite, or there are certain parasites and medical kits. So all these components you're getting from the aliens you're shooting, you can throw them in one of your refrigerators, attach it to your food processor, and you can make some of the medications as well. You can make seeds. This is one that caught me off guard. I didn't actually know about this for quite a while. Without seeds, you'll be unable to create a garden and grow your own sustainable food. And of course, you may not be lucky like we are to find a space station, or not a colonial station on your planet that's going to sell you seeds, right? So you've got that option. So we should explain possibly the most important button that you're ever going to use when it comes to especially dealing with your bases. If you hit P, this brings up everything you could really want to know about your station. So this is how much oxygen is in your tanks. Important if you are on a planet or in space where the environment may not be conducive to breathing. This is a starter planet. Here there is oxygen in the air. I don't need to worry about this, but you would click on manage. You can pick up any oxygen tank and drop it in here and fill up the tank. So let's do fuel. So these are some Promethean packs. You could find them, make them, and I'll just drop them in here. In a couple of seconds, it'll kind of update the amount of fuel we have. There we go. And of course, there's also pentaxid, which is used for shields. So basically, you can put shields on stations and ships. Pentaxid is a relatively rare mineral. Later on, it gets a little bit easier to find, of course. And in here, this is where you can turn on and off all of the parts for your station. So if you, like, we got oxygen off because you can breathe here. You don't need it. We're on a starter base planet. If you need shields here, something crazy is going on. And of course, this here, very important. If you're playing with your friends and you've set up your faction, make sure that you make it available for them to actually, use. If you set it to private, your friends will not even be able to open the door. And anyone that is within your faction, if you set it to your faction like this, will be able to access the station, but it'll still keep out enemies. And of course, there's devices. This will let you see all of the parts and components in the station in their nitty-gritty detail. So if you want to, say, know about this container, you can access it. You don't even need to find it. So signal logic, I'm not going to touch this yet. When I experiment with it a bit more and get a little bit more fluent, I'll probably make a video on it, as long as there aren't already 20 or 30 of them out there. So this will be used to automate things like your lights and things like that. So if you want the lights to turn off when no one's in your base and things like that. But this is one that is a killer. CPU usage. So as you can see, I have tier 1 here. It's 80k. There's tier 2, 200k. So I have allocated 81k of my total power, which is 200k. If I had a tier 1 CPU, something in the base would be on fire. So just keep that in mind as you're developing your base. Make sure that you're not going over on the CPU. And if all of a sudden you throw down a constructor, and oh, my base is on fire, you can turn it off here, and that will sort out the problem long enough for you to build a new CPU or maybe make a new station. But moving on. Oh no, you've placed down a constructor. For some reason, where's your inventory? Why isn't it working? So don't forget, whenever you place on a new constructor in the input, constructor out for the output. Same thing with your food processors, any other system that you may decide to build in this fashion. There are various kinds of constructors. So like labeling conventions, like a growing fridge. This is near our grow plots. The output fridge is over here because it's in a convenient place. You need food, you go to the food processor and it pops in here. So another useful tip. All right, so as you can see, we have independent structures. Now we've done this for a couple of reasons. There's a furnace and a deconstructor in there. They are huge power hogs and CPU hogs. So if you don't have the CPU capacity available because you don't have certain minerals, consider splitting up the facilities. That's more of just a joke facility. It's a parking lot. But what I want to show you is this farm. This farm has its own power grid, and if we push P, you can take a look here that I have solar power as well. So I've got some battery stored up. In the menu, I've filled up the fuel because this is an important structure to us. So if this was attached to the smelter and power was lost, the fridge would go down. All of these goodies would spoil on us, and you know it's no good. You can't eat the spoiled food. If you can, I don't recommend it. Yeah, it doesn't give you the option. So basically, this will protect your fridges in your farm from going off and spoiling all the food because you want to basically not die of starvation while in space. It would probably suck. So something to keep in mind, but as well, we are aiming for these ration packs. So we pretty much try to build our farm around producing these because ration packs don't have a perish time. But as you can see, this fruit does, and so does this plant fiber, or this plant protein. So just something to keep in mind. Alright guys, that's it. So hopefully some of this is helpful. If there's anything in the community that's not overly well covered and you would like me to maybe take a look at it and see if I can make a video for you, throw it in the comments. That'd be awesome. If you want to throw me a like and subscribe so I know whether or not I should keep going with these. And I'll probably create a simple little playlist like I did with Salvaging that will just cover small little things and cycle through them. But if there's something you really want to see, you better throw it in there. You better throw it in there soon. So anyways, thanks for showing up.